Renske Stevens, and today I'm going to make with you the Victorian Sewingbox. Now this sewing box goes way back in time, late 1800s. And this is what happens when you open it up. So if you yourself would like to make such a nice Victorian sewing box, this is the kit you would like to get. Now in this kit there's only the cardboard. So you can get your own kind of fabric, and you can make a nostalgic one like the one I showed you when we started, or you can make a whole modern young one, which I'm going to show doing the sample. So here are all the parts that are in your kit. There's a lot of them. Don't let it scare you, because I'm going to guide you perfectly through this project. So when we're starting with the project, we want to have cardboard A. They all have letters on the top of the cardboard, and 4 pieces B. You cut your fabric as directed in your instructions, and we want to place part A exactly in the middle, and then we're going to leave 1/8 of an inch or 3 millimeters distance between the two parts, and we're just going to lay it on the fabric before we decide to glue it, because now you can see that you have your seam allowance all around the part. Now I'm going to start to glue part A onto the fabric, and I'm leaving the other parts just to guide me, so I don't have to look where I'm going to glue it. So I apply glue to part A and glue part A onto the fabric. Of course, I flip my page, as I learned you before, and now I'm allowed to take away the B parts. On the right side of the fabric, I just touch it with my fingers to see if there's any wrinkles or bumps, and then I flip it back. So now we're going to glue 4 parts B, leaving the 1/8 of an inch separation. And every time you glue a part on, be sure that you touch it and see if there's no funny things underneath. And this is already the last part B. When you have your project as far as this, you can start to cut along actually the line of the cardboard, leaving your seam allowance of about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. Hold on to these parts, you will need them afterwards, at least some of them, and you do this on all 4 corners. So when you've cut out the fabric leaving the seam allowances, you can now cut diagonal towards the cardboard. Not up to the cardboard, just stay about 1/8 of an inch away from the cardboard point. So you open it up like this, and you do that on all 4 sides. This will allow your fabric to fold back this way afterwards. So the next step we're going to do, and we always do it on all 4 sides, we are going to cut in a straight line towards the cardboard top corner, like this, and this you can throw away, and you do this on every top corner. When you've cut all the top parts as shown, you can now glue every side strip towards the cardboard, and we will use the brush to do this. So you apply glue to your cardboard. Be sure to also put a little bit of glue in the gap, and then lift up your fabric and glue it along the cardboard side. Be sure to press the fabric down here as well, and you just go like the clock, and you do every side the same way. So once you've done all of these 8 sides, you still have the top parts remaining. So if you would glue this down, this is not very pretty because you're going to look at the cut fabric. So we have a little trick for this. We are going to cut diagonal, but as the cardboard is 2 millimeters, or better said, like 1/16 more or less of an inch, we are going to cut diagonal, leaving this little part straight because that's going to cover your cardboard and then go into a diagonal corner. Let me show you again on this side. So first we leave the 1/8 of an inch straight, or 1/16 of an inch, excuse me, and then you're going to cut diagonal. And again, the straight part is going to cover your cardboard and then pull your fabric in a diagonal towards the cardboard. So I'm going to cut that on all sides and then glue them. So once you've cut them all, you can now apply glue to the cardboard. And I always try to put the glue on the corner, on the diagonal cut sides and the corner pieces. So I'm sure that there's glue to glue the fabric completely down to your cardboard. And you do this for every side. So now you've actually created the outside of your Victorian sewing box. As you can see, this is the part that's going to fall out. So now we have 4 parts D, and if you would glue these, of course covered with fabric, on top of the B parts, you can see that the part where your box folds is still uncovered. So what we want to do, we want to make fabric connections to hold the box together. We're going to cover these later with fabric, and this is where your remaining fabric comes in. Now, in your instructions, there's the exact size of the pieces you want to cut for here. But of course, you can also use your outside box as a guideline, and you want to cut parts that are exactly the same width as the bottom part. So let me cut 4 of these pieces. So this is one, you can see it's the same width as the bottom part, and I'm now going to cut 3 more of those. So now you can see I have cut 4 pieces of approximately 1.5 inch of height and the width of the bottom part. Still, if I would like to glue this one on top of the gap, I still have one small problem, and that is I would like to cut this part diagonal, because if I glue my D part on top afterwards, I don't want to see where the fabric went. So the only thing you now have to do is cut a diagonal line, and you wouldn't want to do that on the same position on both sides. So you could fold your fabric and be sure that you do that on both the same position, opposite sides. So this is what I've now created. So I will glue the straight part onto the bottom part. It will cover the corner, and exactly when you've just gone beyond the corner, it will go in a diagonal line like that. And now if you were to place the D part on top, you will not see any finishing parts of the fabric. So I'm going to cut that on all 4 parts, and I'm going to glue them in place. Let me show you how I do it. I apply glue to the complete part and inner part of the fabric, and of course also the B part, like that. And I'm going to lay my piece of fabric aligning the cardboard parts like this, and I apply it to the cardboard. Then I press the fabric into the gap and then place the remaining fabric over, and you will have a perfect finishing of your gap that makes your parts movable. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing with the other 3 sides. So this is the base of the outside of your box. Again, I can show you can lift them up and they will now drop out. So the other parts we need are the D parts to go right on top of there, and we will want the piece to cover the inside. So now you are allowed to do exactly the same steps with the parts E and F. You will find 1 E part, 4 F parts in your package, and then you will do exactly the same thing you did, just what I showed you now, and this in the end will come on top of that. So I'm going to put this aside. We don't need that at this time, and we're going to continue with the bottom part. So when you finish the outside of your box, you are going to search your 4 D parts and 1 C part in your kit. So the C part is going to be the cover of your bottom inside box, and the D parts are going to be the covers of your inside sides of the Victorian Sewingbox. So imagine this covered with fabric. Now every part of this one is covered in the same way as I'm going to show you in a minute. And of course, looking at the second part, which goes on top in the end, you are going to do exactly the same. Let me get those parts for you. You will have the G part going in the middle. You will have the H parts, which are going to be on the sides. There's one missing, but I'm going to make that in a minute for you. So all these parts you can take from your kit, prepare them, and I'm going to show you how to make every part except the H parts, because that's a little bit different. So keep those one aside, but the other ones are covered exactly the same way, every part of them. So you prepare the pieces of fabric as in your instructions, and always think of the seam allowance you need around the parts. So you always need enough fabric, which I would say is like 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, to fold around your fabric, your cardboard parts. So put your fabric with the right side to the table, prepared to the side, put the part to be glued on top of your old magazine, or no newspaper, old magazines or coloring books. And then you glue the part, you put it on the back side of the fabric exactly in the middle of the prepared piece. You turn your page, you have a nice and tidy surface to work on. Always with your fingers, see if there's anything strange underneath your fabric. Press it out and then turn the part upside to you. So what we're doing with the D part at this time, you can also do that exactly for the P part, the Q part, the L part, the tiny one for the thimble box, the G part, and the D parts, as I said before, and the C part, of course. So these are all done following these exact same steps. So once you have your fabric on the cardboard, or your cardboard on the fabric, you always cut a straight line towards the cardboard corner, like this, till it drops out. And you do that on all 4 corners. Having done this, you can start to just glue the first 2 opposite sides just the way they were cut. No additional cutting. So apply glue to your cardboard and fold the fabric over. Be sure there's no air on this side, so it lies straight around the cardboard edge. And you do the same with the opposite side. Now for all remaining 2 opposite sides of these parts I just mentioned, they are all 1 millimeter width, which is 1/16 of an inch big, so that's only tiny. So we're going to leave this 1/16 of an inch straight and then cut diagonal. And we do the same here. We cut diagonal, just leaving the 1/16 of an inch straight. And you do that on all remaining 4 corners. And this means that once you glue it to the back side of your cardboard piece, it's going to cover your cardboard corners. In order to do this in a nice way, apply glue to the center part on the cardboard and apply glue to the diagonal sides and the corner parts. Lift up your part and press the fabric to the back side. If there's any glue coming out of the fabric, no problem, just wipe it away with your fingers. And now you do exactly the same thing for the second side. And you have one perfect covered part with fabric. And the back side, of course, in the end, is going to be stuck onto this part and you will have the perfect finishing. Now, before we are going to glue the D parts in here, and of course I can already show you I did exactly the same thing with the C part. Here I took the fabric from the outside of the box, so we can practically glue that in there already. But this part, we want to have a little ribbon running across so we can stick something underneath. And we have to do that before we glue it into the box. So I'm going to grab my ribbon and glue it in there. So I've chosen for centimeter ribbon. And I'm going to glue that around to the back sides. Just apply a little bit of glue. I can shorten it slightly. And I can apply glue to the back side of the cardboard and just stick my ribbon on there. So once you've done one, you can do all 4 of them this way. And now we are allowed to glue these in the position they need to be. And you can already see how nice this is going to finish. So you take the back side of the finished part. Again, you apply the glue all over the back side of your covered part. Lift it up, and then you're going to glue it, having the same distance on all 3 sides. Don't bother about the bottom side, but the top and the right and the left side should have more or less the same distance. So now you do this with all 4 parts. So once you have all these 4 parts in position, you can also glue the C part, which you covered exactly the same way, in the position where it needs to be. So again, glue the back side and stick it exactly in the middle of the bottom part. Press well so it sticks perfectly to the bottom side. So now actually your first outside of the box has finished. Okay, I'm gonna give you a tip. You can see this part is sort of trying to lift back up, and you would have to press it all the time to keep it stuck to the other side. You can also use your masking tape, which is not going to harm your fabric. And you can use strips of masking tape to hold your parts together, so you don't have to press them all the time. And then afterwards you can take these off. So we have everything supported so it can dry flat. Let me turn the page for the glue. And now you can see we can sort of finish the second layer. So again, we have one part that's going to cover the bottom, and we are going to use the 4 H parts to cover the inside of the F parts. Now you have 2 options to do that. You could have done it exactly the same way as we did the D parts, but I sort of like to put some batting underneath, so in the end these could serve like a needle keeper or a pin cushion. Let me show you how I make it. So here's my fourth piece H, and I would take a scrap of batting. Doesn't matter which kind of batting, as long as it isn't too flat. And I'm going to fold it in double, and I'm going to put just a few small dots of glue on the H part and stick it to the back of the double folded batting. Now I can lift it up, and of course only one layer is glued to the H part, and I'm going to cut straight along each part. So I'll just have the H part covered with batting, and no batting to the outsides, no excess batting on the part. So this is what you would like to have in the end. I'm going to put these other H parts aside for a moment. So you prepare all H parts like this. Then you take the parts of fabric, the pieces of fabric you already cut because we put it in the instructions, and we're going to put the batting side to the back side of the fabric, like that. And of course, first we were gluing the cardboard, sticking it to the back side of the fabric, but now with the batting in between, we don't want to glue it. So now you hold your piece in place and you cut straight from the side up to the cardboard, so you can lift it up completely. Now we're going to put some glue on the cardboard and lift up the fabric. Holding it together, turn it around, and again from this side you are going to cut in a straight line towards the cardboard. Again, you apply glue, and this time when you lift up your fabric you slightly pull it, because then you get a little bit of tension on your batting, which makes it look very nice in the end. So you see what I mean? It's like a cushion. Now this is stuck, so your batting cannot move. Now you're going to cut in a straight line towards the corners again. You do that on both sides. And what we did before with the D parts, we were going to cut it diagonal, leaving 1/16 of an inch. But now, of course, with the batting in between, we have much more distance between the parts. So I would say you now leave 1/8 of an inch straight. So you cut diagonal, leaving 1/8 of an inch straight. And you do that on all 4 corners. And again, the straight piece is going to cover your corner. So I put my prepared part on the magazine. I apply glue to the cardboard, and again I do the diagonals and the corner parts on the fabric. Now I slightly pull it to the back side, and you will see that the corners want to open up because there's batting underneath. But as you have glue in them, you can just sort of model them in a nice corner like this. And you do the same with the other side. Glue on the cardboard, glue in the corners and the diagonal part. You lift up the fabric, pull it to the back, and model your corner parts like that. So this is one covered piece, which is going to be on top of the F parts. Isn't that cute? So I've done the same steps with every part to make the 4 parts for the inside inner box. And of course I took part G, which I did before, and I glued fabric on that to cover the inside of the box. So now I can glue this one to the inside bottom, So again, I apply glue to the back side of the part, like this. Stick it to the center of the inner bottom. And now I'm going to glue each of these parts onto the F. So again, I apply glue to the back side of the part. And as we did with the other parts, you are only going to pay attention to the left, right and top side. So they should have the same sort of seam around. Don't bother about the bottom side. So you press well. Again, if you ask yourself if you have to press it all the time, you can also use some masking tape to hold the parts together. So you just pull that to the back and then you can continue working. I'm now going to do the same to the other parts. So to finish the bottom side of your box, we now need to get part R. Part R will be the bottom of your box, say this part, where your whole box is going to stand on. So again, you will have in your instructions what size of fabric you have to prepare. You can do the outside sort of the fabric again. Apply glue to the R part and glue it in the middle, in the center of your chosen fabric. So that's what I'm going to do now. As done before, this is the same step you're going to do every time. We are going to cut a straight line towards the cardboard corner, so nothing different yet from the other parts. And you cut until the corner falls out. Having done this, two opposite sides are stuck just the way you did the other parts. And you're going to think, what's going to be different about the other parts? Well, it's nothing big different. The only thing is that this piece of cardboard is just slightly thicker than the other ones we worked with before. So now you're going to do your diagonal cuts here, and now you're going to leave about 1/8 of an inch straight to cover your cardboard, and just cut away a little tiny piece there. So you're going to leave 1/8 of an inch straight and then cut diagonal. And you do the same again here. And you cut diagonal. So you cut straight. And if I'm doing this too quickly for you, you can always check out our tips and tricks site on YouTube, and you can see every part of the box making by itself. So here nothing changes. Applying glue to the cardboard and the corners, pressing the corners in shape. Careful not to put your project in the glue. And again, glue in the center, out on the diagonals in the corner parts. So now actually your bottom part is ready to go underneath, but still I would like to put some metal ends on the corners. So when it falls down, your corners are not damaged. And I've chosen to do that with small silver ends. And I'm going to show you how to put them on. This is the nice side of the corner. That's the open, ugly side of the corner. And your bottom part is going to show up this way. So we want to have the pretty side on the outside of on the top side of your bottom part. So you turn it around. You always have to have the open end of the corner facing up before you hammer with your rubber hammer. And you just hammer it like this, and you can see that it closes around the cardboard, and you will not be able to get it off again. And we do that on all four sides. And this is your bottom part, which we could actually now glue underneath the box. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to apply glue. And now I do it with the brush, because if I use my roller, I might just get a lot of glue on the side parts, which I don't want. They want to be unstained, no glue on them. And with the brush, I can put on a little bit more glue than with a roller. And as this is the glue that's going to hold these parts together forever, I rather use the brush. So now I flip up all the sides and I'm going to position this bottom part exactly in between my metal corners, as you see what I'm doing here. When you see that you're in the right position, you can open up the sides and start to press the two parts together like this, and then you let it dry. So now there's not a lot of pieces of cardboard remaining to finish your box. So now we want to make the lid, and we have M, N and O parts for that. And you can see that when I lay the M part in front of me, the N parts will be the same width, and the O parts, if I put it corner to corner, will overlap like 4 millimeters, which is like 3/16 of an inch, which will, if you put both sides the same distance, exactly overlap your cardboard at the sides. So if you have never made a box before, I'm going to do it rather quickly, but you can check out our tips and tricks section and you can see me slowly make a box. The part that is most important to know is that you always start with an equal side to the bottom part. We use masking tape to support the parts while being glued. You can lift up your bottom part, apply glue to the edge of the part to be stuck, and now you can lay the equal side, in this case N, exactly corner on corner, and now it's stable enough to turn it around and apply glue to the next two edges. Now you're going to put part O on top, and be sure that you align it in the corner, and don't mind about what's going to happen here because it's going to overlap. Again, use your masking tape to support the parts while drying. Flip it over, and as you can see, there's exactly the part that overlaps will fit in exactly the part N. So now, again, you're going to apply glue to the edge, and now to the overlap inside. And again, with your masking tape to support. Now you have 3 sides left. You apply glue to all 3 sides. As you can see, I'm not using very much glue, just enough to hold the parts together. And now your last part O fits exactly on these 3 sides. And again, with masking tape, you can support it to hold the parts together while drying. So of course I prepared this part before. So if you tear off all the pieces of masking tape, you will be left over with your finished lid. And in the instructions it tells you exactly the piece of fabric you need to prepare to cover the lid with. And it's going to be twice the height, plus of course a seam allowance on the top and a seam allowance on the bottom. So when you've prepared this strip, you can take your lid and you apply 1 centimeter or like 1/4 of an inch glue to the back side of the lid. And then you're going to put your strip of fabric on top, leaving 1/2 inch on the closed side, top part of the lid, leaving the rest on the open side, because of course this in the end will have to go into the box. Start with 1 centimeter. Once you've done that, you can put your project in front of you, and then you can just drop your fabric to the back. You take your roller and you're going to roll the next side. And without pulling the fabric, position the fabric onto the cardboard. Do the same with the next side. And because it's a stripe, I prefer to do it this way so I can see where I'm going to glue it, so I'm not going in a crooked way. Be sure that when you have a stripe or a check, you check that it's straight. If you have some floral fabric or a solid, you could just glue this side and just flip over the fabric. You don't even have to watch it. So now we're going to do the third side. Again, apply glue and glue the fabric to it. Now the last side, this is going to be a side you're going to see with your eyes because it's not covered with anything. So to give it a nice finishing, we flip over the fabric to the inside and we sort of search for the nice seam to end this side. So when you've found it, be sure to crease it with your fingernails or even an iron, but that would be very much work. And you can see where the crease is, and you want to glue this part. So where you have the crease, you're going to add like 1/4 inch, because that's going to be your seam allowance. And then you are going to glue along the fabric and stick the fabric along the crease like this. So now you have your nice finishing, and now you can glue this part to the back side of your lid, and no one can actually tell where you finished or started. When you have covered the whole outside of your, in this case, box lid, you are going to cut vertical towards or up to the cardboard corner. The same here. The same here. That's where the point where you started. And here. So this is the top of your box. Now, as we did before, 2 equal sides will be glued to the cardboard part of the box. So I'm going to apply glue here and glue the fabric to the side. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing at the opposite side. Now, as you probably would have thought, the last 2 sides are always diagonal. But at this stage you are not gluing around a cardboard, but directly on top of it. So now you can cut diagonal, starting from the corner. Just like this. When you come to the side where you started, you will see that this is the 1 centimeter you actually started off with. And you can get rid of that one because you don't need it anymore. Now you're going to cut diagonal again on this side too. And now you apply glue to the top side of your lid and glue the fabric on top. You do the same with the last side. Now for the open side of your box or lid, wherever you want to call it, we need to cut a straight line towards the cardboard corner again. But at this stage your fabric might just be slightly too big to put your scissors to the corner and cut it down straight. So you might as well lift your fabric, look at the straight line, crease it, and then cut along the crease. Or in my case, as I used a striped fabric, I could follow the stripes, but only in the case that you did a correct straight line in your when you were gluing it. Here again, this is the starting point, but still you have to cut this 1 centimeter or 1/4 inch, which you can already cut away because you're not needing this one either anymore. So you can get rid of that. Now I proceed with the next corner. You cut directly up to the cardboard corner. So now you have created the fabric to open up again, but now on the open side. Now we want to glue 2 sides to the inside of the box. But as you see, the corner parts aren't very tidy if we would do it this way. So because of the cardboard being 2 millimeters, which is about 1/16, 1/8 of an inch, we're going to cut the width of the cardboard in the fabric, which is going to be a tiny cut. So the cardboard is 2 millimeters, which is between 1/16 and 1/8 of an inch. So you want to cut a 1/8 of an inch cut at 1/8 of an inch from the cardboard. And I can show you what's going to happen if you are going to flip your fabric inside the box. This tiny piece of fabric is going to cover your cardboard corner. So that's what we're going to do on all 4 opposite corners. So I do it on this side too, here too, and here too. Now I'm able to flip these 2 opposite parts into the box. But then again, you can see that the inside is not very clean. So this is also in our tips and tricks section. You put your scissors into the corner of the inside of the box, lift up your fabric, it will leave a tiny mark, and you will just cut diagonal through this mark. And if you now turn it into your box, you can see you have a very clean corner. So I'm going to do that on all 4 of these same sides. Stick my scissors in and cut diagonal. Once you've done these 2 cuts, you can apply your glue to the inside of the lid with your brush. No problem, because you're not going to damage anything inside yet. Apply glue to the edge. Also be careful that you get some glue in the corner parts, in the sides, on the inside bottom. And then you're all ready to press it on the edge and flip your fabric to the inside of your box. Look how pretty that looks. Now we're going to do exactly the same on the opposite side. Now the other 2 sides, you can also check out our tips and tricks section. We are going to cut away about 1/8 of an inch. And we stop at 1/8 of an inch from the cardboard, and this last piece goes diagonal. Now we do this on all 4 remaining sides. Well, all remaining 3 sides, because I already cut one. Now at this stage, it is impossible to glue inside the box because you're going to damage the side parts, which already have fabric on them. So we want this fabric to go into the box too. So now I'm going to put the fabric on top of my magazine, apply glue to the edge and the corner parts. Corners are always very important. And now with my roller, I will do the remaining part and always glue away from the box. Of course, you flip your page, we'll have a clean surface, and we put the fabric to the inside. And we do the same for the second side. Apply glue to the edge, onto the fabric, and then the remaining part, you will, there's one thread there, get rid of that, and then glue the fabric in to the lid. This is what we have created up to now. When we were doing all these thin parts of fabric, we also did the Q part. And the Q part can now be stuck inside the lid. So again, apply glue to the back side of the covered part and place it into the lid. And you can see how nicely it finishes up all the rough ends. So before we also glued the P part, that's difficult, the P part on the coordinating fabric, and that's the outside of the lid. So now we are allowed to glue that one on top of the lid too. Let's do it the right side round. So now I want to explain you something. Remember I showed you how to make the lid? Well, you do actually the same thing with the thimble box, which exists from parts I, J and K. And you do exactly the same thing, building it together. So I'm not gonna do that again. And then actually you cover the thimble box in exactly the same way as your lid. So I did that on forehand. And in the beginning of this YouTube, we did all the 1mm or the 1/16 inch parts, doing it all the same way. And this is the small L part. And this L part is going to be the inside of the thimble box. So that's the last thing I'm going to show you. And then we're going to glue the whole part together. So this part goes in there, fits perfectly, like this. Isn't that cute? So, well, first of all, at this stage, you could remove all the masking tape. So I'm going to do that. So these are all the parts we have now prepared to make the box complete. We already stuck this one onto the bottom of the box. So now we actually want to stick this one in the middle, because if you do it this way, it doesn't look that nice. So we're going to do it this way. And therefore we lift up all four sides, apply glue to the bottom part and stick it exactly in the middle of your bottom part. So let's do that. And again, here I use the brush and not the roller, because I want to be sure where I position the glue. And again, it's a little bit more glue what you put on with the brush, and it will hold these parts together forever. So this can dry. You can see that the glue sticks together very quickly. And now the little thimble box which we prepared, which has an unfinished side on the bottom, doesn't matter, because we're going to glue this one in here, just like this. Check if the sides are not touching, and then you lift it up. Again, apply glue with your brush and position it exactly in the middle of your center part. Press well. It will take a few seconds to dry. And when you have everything together, you can now lift up all the sides like this, and like this. And now your lid is going to hold the box together. Well, Isn't this cute? Isn't this what the new generation young quilters would like to have in their sewing room? I hope you enjoyed making it with me and hope to see you on our next YouTube. Bye!